This is Belief Radio, positive thinking radio for positive thinking people with Rich Smith and Phil Keeler. To find out more about us and listen to the show, go to beliefradio.com or download us directly from iTunes. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook, and if you want to learn more about the range of products and services we offer, go to beliefglobal.com. Send your emails to info@beliefglobal.com.
So this week's show is about looking at your life in terms of are you getting what you want from it, and have you got enough time in your life to do the things that you would like to be doing? Because at the end of the day, time is a very precious commodity, and how we choose to use that time and utilize it really does influence substantially the sort of life we end up living. So that's what I'd like to focus on. Are you getting what you want from your life? How do we use our time in a more productive way to help us achieve the life that we say that we'd like to be living? So that's where we're going to go.
Yeah, you talk about being productive, but time can also cost us a lot of money as well. And I think lots of people find it quite difficult to have enough time in their lives, don't they?
Absolutely. And I mean, I know we can't all be Bill Gateses, but you think about his time, and the way he has directed his life to a point where literally he, by the second, each second, each minute of his day is valuable, because as the clock ticks away, his company or his wealth keeps accumulating, and it gives him more freedom to do even more things with it. Whereas if you're working flat out in a job which only pays a certain amount of money, then your life to a degree is restricted by that ceiling that you've created. Because, if you're working, I don't know, 50, 60 hours a week flat out every day at I don't know, £10, $10 an hour, something like that, then your salary level is going to be limited to that ceiling, and therefore you may not ever have enough money or enough time, because you have to work all the hours God sends in order to create enough money just to sort of survive. So if you want to make a change, then that can be quite tricky.
So how do we do all of this then?
Well, it won't come as any surprise to any of our regular listeners to hear me say, get clear about what you really want first. And I know that's difficult when you're working, particularly if you are working a lot of hours. I mean, equally, you could be in a place in your life where maybe you're unemployed and you have got a lot of time on your hands. And some people really do struggle to figure out, well, what is it that makes me passionate in my life? And uh, or they just don't know what it is they really want. But only at the end of the day, and sometimes you have to maybe do some experimentation and just try something to find out whether it is something you enjoy doing or not. But really, time management, if we're looking at it as a process of how you manage your time to get what you really want, is the first step is to get clear about what you really want. And because the more you can focus in on the things that really make you happy, the more you can start to sort of manage your life in a way where you only focus your time around the things that you really want to have in your life. So easier said than done, I know. Maybe a useful structure to give you to help you get clear about what you really want. This is a very useful exercise. I know we've talked about it on previous shows before, but you basically get some paper and you answer these questions. And there's three questions. What do I really want to be in my life? What do I really want to do in my life? And what do I really want to have in my life? And so it's like be, do, and have. And you find that if you start to take a little bit of time away from your current life, your current position, it's almost like you have to suspend where you currently are in your life, because you can't change overnight.
Yeah.
And some people might have come across the term circles of influence before, and circles of influence is about thinking about the time and that you have in your life as what are the things that are within my control and what are the things that are outside of my control? And really, if there might be a useful exercise to just write the answers down to those two headings, really. Is almost take a piece of paper, put a line down the middle. On one side it says within my control, and on the other side it says outside of my control. And you write a list of, well, what are the things that I can do that I can implement almost immediately, but what are the things that, even though they might cause me grief, I can't do anything about because they're probably about your employer or people in your life right now, and you can't change them, but what you can do is change your response to them. So circles of influence might be a useful way of thinking and helping you to think about, well, what is it that I could do that's within my control? And so it's like suspending where you currently are in your life. Because yes, if you're working 50 or 60 hours a week, you may not feel like when you do have some time off, you may not feel like writing a list of what you want to be, do, and have. But of course, if you always do what you've always done, you'll always get what you've always got. So at some stage, the desire within a person has to get great enough to want to make some changes. And nothing ever changes in anybody's life until they're ready to change. And whilst people might say, yeah, yeah, I'm ready, I want to change immediately, we all know really that change requires you to think differently and also to put the effort in. And you have to ask the questions of yourself of whether you're willing to put the effort in. And until you're willing to put the effort in and willing to make some serious changes, then nothing will ever change in your life. So you'll always have the same life. So I want to keep this positive and remind you always that you choose the life that you currently have. There might have been a lot of circumstances that have pushed and prodded you and led you to where you are right now, but you also have the power to change it eventually. But that might take a lot of time, particularly if for many years habitually you have lived a certain life. To change some habitual habits might take a long time, but the starting point is you've almost got to suspend yourself away from the current life you're living, give yourself some quality thinking time, and start to get clear about who you really are and what you really want. And the be, do, and have list is very useful to give you a structure for your thoughts. And it might be a little bit difficult when you first start trying to jot down ideas, but if you keep going at it on that list, eventually you start to find that you fill the page with basically what you want in your life going forward. But you have to first start by assessing your current position. Where am I right now? What is it that I enjoy in my life right now? What are the things that I don't like doing in my life right now? And what would I like to change in my life? If I had a magic wand and I could make some changes over the next, few days or the next few weeks or the next year, what would I wish myself to have in my life? And if you start to record those answers, you're starting to give yourself some feedback on a page so you can go back through it on another day and remind yourself of what you've said and crystallize it a bit more. But you're basically assessing your current position. And another interesting part of assessing your current position is to say, where does all my time go in a day? And it might be a good idea to just keep a log each day of what you actually do from the moment you wake up, because it's how much time do you have from literally the moment you wake up to the moment you start work? Is there anything you could do with that time? And if you wake up at 6 and you have to start work at 9, what do you do with those first 3 hours? Some people choose to go and spend an hour swimming or in the gym or thinking or whatever it is. What do you do with that time? Do you read the paper and look at everybody else's news? Or listen to the breakfast news and listen about everybody else's bad news going on? Where do you put your time? Is this making sense, Phil?
Yeah, I mean, the word I get from all of this is commitment. You've got to be committed, haven't you?
I mean, you have got to be committed, but the commitment, the true measure of commitment is not to just say you are, because words are hollow. It's to show that you are by doing some of these first steps that I've been explaining. Is write your list about what you really want in your life, what you want to be and do and have. assess where you currently are and where you spend most of your time. Because if you've got a 7 day week and 6 of those days you spend working and you work 12-hour shifts from 9 to 9 or 10-hour shifts, 9 to 7, or 8 to whenever, then that is your life. You're working every single day for 6 days a week. So you have one day off, and that one day is probably used to catch up on your chores, your washing, your um, admin, your trip to the shops to get your food for the next week, and then it all starts again.
Hmm.
So, if that's the shape of your life, to make a change in it, you first have to really step back and look at your life and realize that actually something significant does need to change in order to change that work pattern. And, I do appreciate completely that out of necessity, yeah, some people are having to work those 6 days to just get enough money to pay all the bills. Um, and so, if they really want to do something different, it might be that the thing that they would really like to do is going to require some training, which might take a couple of years. So, we're not, so, for some people, you might be able to make the changes quickly, but for others, and I suspect probably for quite a lot of people who are, who have been working for a while and have got mortgages or have to pay the rent or have got children or other family commitments in their life, um, there could be an awful lot of variables that are actually keeping you in a particular way of being. So to suddenly change that isn't going to happen overnight. It's going to require a series of committed structure type approaches to start making the little bits of change, little and often, over what could be 2 or 3 years to start seeing the fruits of what you're looking for. Does that make sense?
Sure, yeah. And you mentioned people who work 5, 6 days a week, 12-hour shifts. But um, when I do my most thinking time, let's say, is when I'm on holiday and
Yes.
I'm just thinking we're coming up to the end of the year. People are like rounding up the year and thinking ahead to the future. It is the
Yes.
holiday season. It's a great time to now think about what you want in your future, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a funny old time, isn't it? As you start to, get towards December, and for a lot of people, that means, getting prepared for Christmas and the festive time and the New Year celebrations. And for some people, you might be thinking, my goodness, the year has gone really quick, and the things that I said I would do this year, I haven't managed to do any of them. And so this is a good time for reflection and maybe to start thinking about this exercise that we're talking about on the radio here is assess where you currently are, your current position, and what's going on in your life. Where are you putting most of your time? And really, it's about saying, so, okay, I'm very busy. Obviously, I'm very busy. I'm working 5 or 6 days a week. My day off is used for catch up. So, how do I start to make the changes? And it might be that you have to think of, well, what other types of work could I maybe do or retrain to do, which pays a higher rate than I'm currently on, which would mean that I could get away with working fewer days per week, which would then give me the quality time I'm looking for to be able to spend with my wife, my husband, my kids, my, boyfriend, girlfriend, aunties, uncles, friends, whatever it is that, you're interested in doing. And then once you've identified what it is that could bring you more money, the next step is to identify what you have to do as a next step. Well, is it that you first need to do retraining, or is it that each week you need to start looking on the internet at the job pages, or going and talking to some people who can help you set up the ideas or structure the ideas you have for maybe starting your own business. All of it requires time and effort. And so when you see a lot of successful people around who you deem to have made it and are very wealthy, that did not happen by accident. Sure, there might be, a small minority of people who you might call the privileged few, who maybe inherited it from, their wealth from their family or whatever, and that's not their problem if they did. That's, you can't help it if your parents happen to have accumulated a lot of wealth. Um, but most people have had to create that wealth from nothing, and achieving great wealth takes an awful lot of time and effort and sustained commitment. And you find that the people who do end up achieving their ultimate sort of goal to be reasonably wealthy have made a lot of personal sacrifices along the way. And whereas some people have gone out and used the money they had for, meals and good times and celebrations and holidays and cars and whatever else, the wealthy didn't. They sacrificed all those things in the short term for a long-term payoff, and they put more work in. And whereas other people were out partying, they were at home or wherever, working really hard on their ideas to make their future dreams come true. And but it's no accident, it's not an
Yeah.
accident that you become where you are in life. You're
Let's
going to say something, Phil?
Yeah, I was going to say let's start rounding the show up then, and do you have like three top tips that would help us do all this?
I did, but just before we go into that three top tip, just one last thing
Uh-huh.
about this. What I call envision the future is it might help you to think about when you're looking at your time, is to say to yourself, what do you need to do more of in your life and less of in your life, and stop doing immediately. And it may be that you have to take a good hard look at the friendship groups that you have and say, well, are they serving me anymore? Because if you have lots and lots of so-called friends, uh, and they all are very needy, and each friend has certain issues that they call upon you to help them with, and you're very willing to give that help, then basically you're giving all your, if you did have some free time, all of it is being given to everybody else. And whilst we do say on this show, the secret to living is giving, and the measure of giving is what you get in life, there is a limit to how much you can give out to everybody else. You have to give some to yourself, otherwise you will have nothing left to give to anybody else. So it's about just stopping time wasters interfering, maybe saying no a little bit more, and on the big issues, maybe stop procrastinating. So those sorts of things will help you to free up your time so that you can focus and manage your time proactively. But it might be an idea to keep log of what you do each day and what your time goes. Because I remember coaching somebody once who said they wanted to be a writer, and my first question to them was almost like, well, how many pages have you written then? Oh, I haven't done any yet. I've got some ideas for writing. Okay, right. So when are you going to start writing then? Well, she said, I've never got the time. I said, so all right. So you work in the day. What time do you finish? She said, at 5:30. And then what do you do? Well, I go home, have something to eat, and then what do you do? And for about 4 or 5 hours every single night, she watched the TV.
Yeah.
So, so, I said to her, well, obviously, I'm not saying you have to write for 4 or 5 hours a night. You might need a little bit of relaxation time, but if you only wrote for 2 hours a night, every night, and you made that a goal for five nights out of 7, you put 2 hours in. There's 10 hours of writing over a month. That's 40 hours. Uh, you know, you'll have probably written quite a few pages if you start having the discipline to do that. But only those who really, really want to be a writer and are willing to make the sacrifice or just put their time into something actually get the results. She just kept saying she wanted to do it, but she wasn't showing the universe at all that she was committed by, actually getting on with it. It was just a pipe dream. So you just have to take action, really. So I suppose, okay, let's look at
The top
summarizing
tips. Yeah.
summarizing what we've said on the show and getting clear. So, I suppose the top three tips are, and it is all about clarity, but it's number one, I would say, is suspend where you currently are in your life and dare to dream. Um, so a lot of people will say, "Oh, there's no point in dreaming or having these fancy ideas because I never have time to put them into action." Well, that will never get you any change in your life ever. You have to dare to dream that what you do want to do in the future, um, and is possible, and you have to believe yourself for just one moment that it is possible. And so that would be my first
Hmm.
point, really, is suspend where you are currently in your life, because you can't change it overnight, and dare to dream about what you really would like to do. And what might help you with your dream making process is to do that exercise we said at the start of the show. What would I like to be in my life? What would I like to do in my life? And what would I like to have in my life? Think about the things you really enjoy doing. Think about the things you don't like doing, and what you would like to change about your life. All answering those questions will help you get clarity and help to start firing up the dream machine within your brain. That if you do that, then the next step really is number three. I think we're on number three then.
Yeah.
Is identify what you need to do more of, less of, and stop doing immediately in order to start freeing up time to move you closer to where your dreams are. So it's okay having a dream, but you have to start taking action to make it happen. So identify what you need to do more of, less of, and stop doing immediately. And then really, the last stage is just do it. Get on
Just
with
do
it.
it.
Just get on with it. Go for it. Make it happen. Every day, do something proactively, even if it's only half an hour, that moves that dream ever closer. Uh, but it's common sense that if you do more, if you've got a list of things that you really do think you should do more of, which will help you achieve your dreams, simply doing those things that are on your list with commitment and real desire and real passion will make it start to become real. Equally, doing the things that you wrote on the list about what you need to do less of in your life and stop doing immediately, if you implement them, it will free up time for you to focus more and more on your dreams. And as we've said, not just on this show, but on many shows, you get what you focus on in your life. You are in your life where you are because your point of focus has been in a certain place. If you continue to focus and dream about that dream and focus on those things that you really want in the future and back that up with solid actions in the way we've been talking, one day you'll wake up and realize you've created the dream. And what
Yeah.
will be really empowering for you is to know that you were the orchestrator of it. You made it happen by doing something differently. And that's a very powerful thing to do in your life and to realize is that when you do make something happen and realize that it was you that made it happen, it was you and your efforts that made it happen, then it should inspire you to know that you can do that on other things in your life.